Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Compass Curiosities. How are you doing tonight, Ian?
I am doing well. How about you, Russ?
Doing very well, Hanging in there.
That's all we can do sometimes. So, honestly, tonight I'm pretty excited about having another author on. Obviously, you got to be backstage with me, just geeking out, talking about books and things
Of
like
course.
that in different genres. But there's a few things I want to hit at the front of the show that I want to talk about. Obviously, you guys are coming off of, if you're with the Get Haunted network, you're coming off of Paranormally Blonde. If not, definitely check out early. Paranormally Blonde on at 7 o'clock, coming up before our show. Now, they do run over just like we run over, so we want to make sure that we have that space. So I think they've been off air about 45 minutes now. So definitely check them out before us on every Monday at 7 o'clock. And then, Russ, you okay? Deer and headlights in me on here. All right. So we got you and I both have issues going on today. I got a little bit of tummy trouble. And you're a little spacey, so we'll cut each other a ton of slack tonight, yeah?
Yeah, of course. Like I said, if I don't talk much tonight, that's fair reason behind it. So, excuse me.
So we got a couple of things. Yep. We got a couple of things coming up in the Get Haunted Network that I think everybody should know about. We got an event coming up that we were talking about earlier. We got Rock Island.
Correct. You get the Rock Island Expo or Esoteric Expo happening October 4th. October 4th. Tickets are only $5 to get in. Annabelle, the infamous haunted doll, will be present at this event. You can get all the information and ticket sales and everything from extremeticketing.com. That's a extreme XTREME. Ticketing.com has a link to all the events that are going on with Get Haunted and everything like that. Also, we have on coming up here in 2 weeks, June 21st, we have author Brian Paoni's book release happening at Missouri State Penitentiary. And investigation. The book is called These Walls Still Talk. We had Brian on the show.
There's a good portion dedicated to smut writing about Rob.
Of course.
So I had to immediately buy the autograph copy, which is going to get dropped off there, and Rob's going to send it over to me. So I can do a little bit of audio recording of some of those chapters. And I know Rob's going to enjoy hearing my sultry voice speaking.
Of course he will.
As the young female protagonist who is all a quiver at his presence and his skinny jeans. So I look forward to that personally.
Of course you do. So that's June 21st. Again, you can get tickets on extremeticketing.com. Like you said, I'm spacey today, so I'm like kind of losing my train of thought very easily tonight. I don't know if I'm overheating myself or if I'm doing whatever, but something's going on.
Oh, take it off, big guy. Take it off.
Just let it go. Also, I wanted to bring up, September 6th and 7th, of course, we got to mention the Maine Paranormal and Horror Con happening in Augusta, Maine. They just made the announcement that Annabelle will be at that event as well. They were able to work
look at that. She's going from burning down plantations to traipsing across the Northeast.
Exactly. And this will be Annabelle's first time ever in Maine. So
really?
Yep. She's never been to Maine before. So it'll be the first time this little doll's going to be up there and making the visit.
I hope she takes lots of pictures. I always like seeing vacation shots.
And I believe, so if I heard right, a little birdie told me that little Annabelle is going to be making an appearance as well.
Annabelle is likely going to be there. Yeah.
Of course. So, but as far as events, that's what we got wrapped up so far. For right now, there's a lot of good events going out there. So, check, as I said, extremeticketing.com. Definitely check that out because, it has all the information you need for all the events that Get Haunted is doing. And it's your one-stop shop for everything.
I forgot we got a ball. Yep. Sleeves here.
Yep.
Can't do this with sleeves. I feel awkward.
Don't have sleeves.
I even got rid of collars.
What's that?
I even got rid of collars.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll just take a moment real quick and say hello to Courtney and Damien. Good morning to you, sir.
Or specifically, Courtney with Trinity Paranormal. Check them out at Facebook and Instagram. Yep. Damien, you know I am, buddy. You know I am.
All right, so let's get into the guest we have tonight.
I'm an arms dealer, baby.
And we will see you after I make a new page from us getting banned. No.
You're welcome, Courtney. I'm not sure if you're thanking me for the arms or for the name drop, but I'm going to assume it was for the arms.
We have Wade Kirby's in the room, and he's part of Nesper. He's going to be with Annabelle up in the main Paranormal and Horror Con, as well as traveling with Annabelle to the multiple locations that she's been to.
To be fair, Wade, Maine's pretty friggin' north. Like, I don't know if there's much more north than Maine and staying in the U.S. So, but tonight's guest, we've taken a few runs at this. I'm actually super excited to have him on tonight.
This is right up your alley.
And yours, though. So this is what I think is really cool about tonight's guest is Derek Barton, for those of you who don't know, is an author and has really two genres when you check him out. He's got two different categories of books. He writes his horror side and his fantasy side. And for those of you who've been with us for a little while, you know Russ, big horror guy, loves that genre 100%. I personally, I am not a horror fan. I don't go out of my way for it. If it's a good psychological thriller, I love it. But Derek also writes in the fantasy side, which I am an avid reader and collector of fantasy books and things like that. A really big nerd for those of you who don't know or who haven't had a chance to meet me, because I wear that flag pretty confidently and fly it pretty frequently.
Yes, you do.
So he operates in both spaces for Russ and I to actually get really excited and kind of have a little bit of a geek out with. So Stephanie, thanks for joining us. Kim, thanks for joining. And everybody else in there that I haven't said hello to because I'm a rude bastard. But without further ado, I think we can bring our guest on, Mr. Derek Barton himself. How are you tonight, Derek?
Good. Thank you for having me on.
No worries. Thank you for coming out.
As they say, third time's the charm. I'm glad we were finally able to nail down this with you.
Yeah. It's the truth. So author, you got quite a few books under your belt.
Thank you.
I personally, because we spoke a little bit backstage, and I've always wanted to kind of take a crack at writing, but every time I get there, I just lose the words, and I can't put that pen to paper in that kind of way. But I mean, you're able to put out like quite a few books from a year. I mean, you're able to do 2, 3, 4 books a year.
Yeah, I tried to do. My goal is to do at least 2 a year. At least.
Okay. Oh, hey, Stacy. Thanks for joining. You didn't want to change your show time to tonight at 9 o'clock? Sorry, Derek.
You're never going to let that one go, are you?
No, I'm never letting it go. Never going to let it go. So, I actually had my own show for a while, Get Moderated, which should be coming back soon, hopefully. And Stacy and I were on the same night. And then we were on her show, and I was like, hey, guess what's going on? I'm changing my night, so we're not going to be in conflict anymore. And she had already decided to change her night too, and then we changed it to the same night and the same time without talking to each other. Never let it go. Never let it go, no. Stacy. It's too damn funny not to let go.
So she's decided to be our arch nemesis.
Yes. It is arguably the most peaceful adversarial relationship you could ever imagine. So what night will be on now?
Stacy, he picked
Thursdays.
He picked a day that ends in Y.
Yeah.
So
But all right, you were saying, I'm sorry, you try to keep it to.
I try to at least do 2 a year. It just depends. Last year was actually pretty productive. I got quite a few stories out in some anthologies and did my own couple books. So I've been publishing since 2016. So I've got 19. I'm working on book 20 right now.
Now, are you self-published? Did you start with
Yes.
self-publishing, or are you still self-publishing? Or
Yep. Yeah.
okay,
I decided not to prolong and wait my life for somebody else to decide, hey, you know what, let's spend some marketing money on this guy. You know what I mean? I'll do it on my own if I have to. So I've been happy with, the direction things have been going. And I think you give up too much freedom, too much things to the other people. It doesn't become your work anymore. It becomes somebody else's. So, and I've heard, of course, the horror stories where people have had their endings changed. I'm like, how can you change a whole ending to a book that somebody's written,
yeah.
you know? And of course, they didn't really like the ending and it didn't work for the book, you know. So, yeah, I just prefer to avoid that nightmare.
Yeah, and so Damien actually asks a question here that I was going to ask something very, very similar to as a follow-up. So when you got into this, because it looks like you've been going about 15 years now,
Mm-hmm.
10, 15 years. What was it that like kind of flipped that switch? Now, was it, as Damien asks, like you were leaving school and you're like, and I'm going to write? Or was it kind of later in life? What kind of flipped that switch that said, I'm gonna start writing?
Well, I would say the latter, where it, something flipped it after, I've been out of school for a long time. I did the standard thing. You get a family, you decide to support them, and bills are more important than your dreams at that time, So I went into insurance, worked a long time in the insurance industry. And back in, I would say probably about, when was that? Probably about 2010, a friend of mine happened to run into him online, and we were good buddies in high school. And I found out, he was up to 12 books. I'm like, oh, wow, that's great, man. And I go, who you published through? And he's like, I self-published. I'm like, I just blew my mind. I didn't even know that existed,
Yeah.
And he's like, I always thought you'd be the one that was published of our group, 3 friends, and we're all into writing, but, he was the only one that actually pursued it. And so I thought, well, you know what? Why not? If I can do it on my own, So I started writing and ran into that same situation where you start writing and then you lose your way to about 50 pages in. And then I started to really researching, and I found out that I'm a different type of writer than I thought I was. I always thought the writing, you had to just sit in front of the screen and type it all out as it goes,
Yeah.
And I was disappointed and frustrated with my writing because I felt like I was meandering. I was going from point to point, but I felt lost in my story, and I could only imagine what the reader was like. So I started. I went and basically started over my book, and I ended up doing a 50-page bullet outline for my book. So the book ended up about 300, like 350 pages long, and I basically followed my outline to the end, and I found out that that's the way I need to go. I found my process, and it's very, when you're looking at your outline, you're like, oh my gosh, I've only got like 20 more bullet points. So it was a great process for me. It was a great learning experience. So
now, were you concerned about page count? Were you trying to hit the 350, or were you trying to go under it, trying to go over it? Or
I was just trying to finish the story. Actually, I was like, I'm one of those guys that had like 50 story starts, but nothing accomplished, So to actually finish the story, let alone it being a novel, just blew my own mind, And I really worked hard at, refining that for my second book. So the first year I spent 3 years writing and finishing the story. Then I spent another 2 years polishing, editing, formatting, blah, 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 learning the craft and learning how to self-publish. And then my next book was a year. So I've really sped up that whole process now, so I can do about 2 a year.
Okay. And so now, like I had said before, you kind of you splash between the horror and the fantasy, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're approaching the story, are you intending it to be one or the other, or are you thinking more kind of in like, I have this general arc I want to get accomplished, which track do I put it on? Or do you already kind of have the track and then explore where that goes for the story?
It really depends on what strikes me. Like, I will say this, I have a lot of dreams that have inspired me. So depending on the type of dream, like I've had, horrific nightmares that have really been beneficial to me and made some decent horror stories for me. On the other thing, okay. On the other hand, there are stories that I want to tell with my fantasy. And I had a whole series that ended up 5-part series for my fantasy. And that just concluded last year. The first 2 books I wrote, like I said, back to back. Then I went into horror, started writing horror, and I just never got back into my fantasy. But I was really like upset by that, to be honest, because my second book I kind of left on a cliffhanger. So I really wanted to get back to it. So last year I really made an effort to do that, and I finished that 5-part series. So I'm really pleased by the whole series and how it turned out. I've also got another fantasy line I'm working on right now. So it just depends on the story I want to tell, but for the most part, it just things inspire me and things strike me, and I know which way I'm going to go with it.
That's fair. And so, again, Damien's kind of stealing my thunder here with some of these questions. So, you have authors like Stephen King that just say that, like, they're the vessel for the story, right? They're just like the channel, they're the avenue. The story already exists somewhere out in the ether, and they're just there to express, right? Like they're the ones that are there to just put it to paper. And then you have other authors that say that, they have this grand idea of a personal journey or a spiritual journey or like just some kind of journey of a amalgamous character. And it isn't until they start putting pen to paper and start giving this character a voice do they understand where that journey is going to go. So for you,
I lean
do you
more
feel like you have that kind of exploratory inspiration, that external influence, or do you think it's just kind of more of a shotgun thing where like you just have that blast of inspiration that you're just scrambling to get everything down?
Kind of that, as far as like, basically, I feel like there's stories that I want to tell, or there's characters that run around in my head that just, they won't leave me alone until I get their story told. And so it's like I said, for that series, that fantasy series, I had that in the background for a long time, and I just kept pushing it back. I think part of it was because I was afraid of screwing it up, I put a lot of pressure on myself. I'm like, this is a finale, you can't screw that up. You really got to build it. So it became pretty daunting. So I would hide behind my horror side and keep pushing the fantasy back. So I would say that a lot, like I said, a lot of my stories come from inspiration, either through music or mostly through dreams.
Okay.
And then I tell stories based around that. Like I had a nightmare where I was attacked and suffocated in a plastic bag, and that became an inspiration for a short story. I had a killer who kept surprising my main character and killing him, and he'd wake up and he'd be in a different setting. He's like, what the hell's going on? And you find out that not only is he dying, but he's dying in different infinities. So different realities. So the same killer was going around. He's like, at one point the main guy's confronting the killer, like, why are you always attacking me? Why are you trying to kill me? He's like, I'm not trying to kill you. I am killing you. And I'm
yeah, it's not a try. This is actually happening.
So that was an inspiration for a short story that I have in one of my new books that I released last year called Victims. It's a anthology of about 16 stories. So, but
Damien, I don't think he's writing that kind of fantasy or that kind of horror. He's got different spooks of gray and Spookback Mountain.
Nope.
So that's actually a really good point, Christy. Do you think that there is like a degree of empath that you have to kind of connect to these characters and be able to really put yourself in their headspace? Like I love role playing. I love tabletop games. Fantasy is a huge, huge thing. And for someone that was relatively autistic growing up, it was really my inroad, right, to understanding people. And so when I hear something like that, like with authors, to be able to put yourself in those shoes in such a long-term stable relationship, unlike if anybody's ever played a tabletop RPG, it is a very unstable, very toxic relationship with your characters most of the time. So when you're in there for the pain and the suffering and the growth, but not necessarily the joy moments or the calm moments, right? Christy, it's exactly that. We actually had a conversation backstage about how writing campaigns for role-playing games is very similar to writing books. But do you think that you carry a degree of what people would traditionally call like an empath in the paranormal community, where you are able to kind of touch the spirit of a character?
I would say so. In fact, that's I'm very I have felt the presence a lot of times, and I feel like sometimes I'm being followed by spirits. Currently, I live in a house that I feel is haunted, even though it was built new. But I live in Arizona, so I figure the land probably has got a lot of ghosts.
And it's got some spirits on it, yeah.
The Wild West. So I do feel like there's some kind of presence in this house, even though the house should not be haunted. As far as no one's died here. Or
there's a lot of, and again, I'm a huge avid reader, and I dive into a lot of myths and urban legends and just occult and things like that. And one of the things that's actually relatively common is the concept of the attached storyteller. And so the idea that because you are an inherent storyteller, because you are someone that gives voice to the ethereal, right? Whether it's a fictional character that you've developed, whether it's, your dream where you've now given that dream a voice by converting it into a short story or a novel, that spirits with a story to tell are attracted to that and can get drawn to the energy of a storyteller. And there's actually a lot of Native American beliefs around the shaman being the grand storyteller. And because they are the storyteller of the ancestors, they're able to reconnect more. And so, you say that you're in a haunted house or a haunted home. Not literally, like there's not clowns popping out of closets, I hope. But it's entirely possible that just the nature of your being, the nature of the storyteller, you may have the attachments.
Was that what was that? I can't think of the movie now, but darn, there's a movie where people are certain people attract the spirits in the night or in the ether. They're almost like a lamp. Do you know the movie's Insidious, I think is.
Oh, okay. Yep. Again, horror movie, man. Not my cup of tea. My wife loves them. I'm not a huge fan. Oh, did I lose you? Or did you lose me?
Oh, you're back.
All right. I wasn't sure who lost who because you went still for me. I probably went still for you.
Actually, my entire both screens went black on my end. So,
oh, okay.
Anyway, what I was saying is that I think that you can be a type of spirit or a type of person that draws those spirits to you. I think that's what the movie Insidious was about, where demons were attracted to this boy because he was such an empath type person.
Yep.
And so I do feel like that can happen. Yes. I've had my own personal experiences with the paranormal. And I have no explanation for that. I'm not a religious person, so it's hard for me to rectify that, but I do know that I've had paranormal experiences. That's all I can say is that, I have no idea if they're souls or if they're actual entities of some time. I just know I've had my own experiences. So
yeah, it's just an energy or an aberration that occurs in nature. Damien asks a good question here. Because you do get a lot of your ideas from dreams, do you have like a dream home base where like can you, if you're away or you're in a hotel or you're out visiting or you're vacationing, do you dream or do you just kind of do you just have those dreams in kind of home base?
I think they mainly happen at home base. I don't dream that often, honestly, but when I dream, they're intense. It's like, I mean, I've been, it feels like I've been smacked around sometimes when I wake up from them, So sometimes I can use them for inspiration for my stories. And sometimes I'm just like, wow, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
So, but I do feel that it's weird. It's almost like a lightning bolt. Sometimes just like something will spark your imagination, like they say. And it's like, oh, that could be really fun to work with or do something with, So I try not to put too many limits on my own creativity. Yeah,
well,
could be night terrors.
If they're inspiring horror books, I definitely would categorize them as that.
As night terrors, I welcome those. It's like I use them for fodder. I figured.
And Christy, I'm the same way.
It's going to scare somebody else.
I do not have dreams. I have maybe 2 to 3 dreams every 5 or 6 years.
That's really
I do not recall my last dream, when it was or what it was. No, Russ, you're good, man. You're good. Don't worry about it. You go take care of you, dude. You didn't need to do that. You shouldn't even be on Facebook. You should be going to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
We'll have an update on Broken Russ here. Russ got some miles on him. Every now and again, we got to take him in for repair. Right. So,
I'm actually, back when I just turned 50, I had a severe stroke actually.
Okay.
So I've been recovering from that, and at first it really hampered my whole writing. And I thought at that point I was done. I thought I was going to be forced to retire because I went from typing 75 words per minute down to 7 words per minute. And I lost complete use of my left arm and my leg, and I had problems. You could probably tell if my speech is a little slurred, just a little, but it's gotten better. But yeah, I just turned 50. There was a hole in my heart that I never knew, and they're supposed to test for that. I guess in the 80s they started testing babies for that. Well, I was born in 1970, so I was 10 years too late. So I was a 50-year-old time bomb just waiting to happen. Never knew it, that hole in my heart. And one night it bled and went up into my head. So I'm lucky I woke up because I was laying next to my little girl taking a nap. I'd hate for
Yep.
her to wake up to that. You know what I mean? Imagine
Yeah.
waking up to your father. And to be honest, that was one of the most intense nightmares I've ever had too. That during the time of my stroke, I had a nightmare where I was sinking into like a black oily liquid, and I couldn't swim up to the surface, and I was drowning in it. And I eventually got to the surface, and as I was pulling myself up onto the beach, I felt literally parts of myself, like pieces of my flesh, being torn off. Turned out that was the left side of my body. So it was like my mind was interpreting what was happening to my body and expressing how that stroke was happening. So had I not made it to the beach, I may never even woke up. So I had, I was in rehab for about 4 months. So I've learned to walk again, talk again, and ride again. So
good Lord. That's
like I said, it made good fodder for my writing, but it took a while.
I was gonna say, which story did this one inform? Because I'd imagine that should be a series.
Well, I'm a lot of my writing is on I would say either serial killer or demonic, villains. So right now I'm writing a serial killer series based in Chicago. So
okay.
Yeah,
and now, is this like a modern day, or is this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, because a lot of my work, I use demonic or occult background to kind of get away with, things happening, that my killer is somehow connected to the occult, or demonic or whatever. And so one complaint to that was that, hey, I'd really like to see you write a crime story that's not based with any kind of occult or supernatural background. I'm like, all right, challenge accepted. So I'm writing a serial killer story. It's going to be basically a rookie detective is chasing a brand new serial killer who just started himself. So it's a race between the two to see who's going to slip up first.
So it's a rookie race.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
And this time I'm not going to use any supernatural background. So.
All right. And so do we have a time horizon for this one? Do you have an idea?
I'm hoping the first book's going to be completed here by October. I got a book signing I'm really excited about that's happening at the same time in October. So Horror Fest here in Phoenix.
I was going to say plug it.
Yeah, it's Horror Fest 2025. It's based here in Phoenix, and it's going to be a really big show. In fact, they just announced they got like 2 or 3 stars from the series From, which is on, I believe, the MGM network. So it's a really cool. It's written by the same people that wrote Lost.
Okay.
So it's a really weird series, but it basically From is a town that once you go into that town, you can never leave.
So okay, so a little Silent Hillish.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm trying to get this series is going to be called Eclipse, and I'm going to try to have it done, at least the first book done by that October date, so I can, premiere it at that festival.
All right. That's awesome. I mean, I'm going to keep an eye out for it. Now, one of the things you and I talked about before coming on, right, was audiobooks.
Right. You were talking about the Dresden Files, which you said were based in Chicago. So that really piqued my interest now that I'm writing a story based in Chicago.
Yeah, that's all occult. That is 100% occult, supernatural crime stories in Chicago. And Chicago, greater Chicago. It's a phenomenal series. Jim Butcher, like, it's been around for about 25 years now. I think the first book came out in 2000, 2001. There was a very short-lived series about it in 2007. They did a terrible job casting. I think that was some of the problem. He's this like 6'7" gangly kind of dude that's just, and he's gangly, right? He's like scrappy, but like he's a beanpole. And when the show came out, they got like a stocky 5'10" guy. And so it was just such a departure
that the Jack Reacher series had, where they had Tom Cruise playing the first guy. I mean, he doesn't look like the main character. He did a good job, but I mean,
and then John Krasinski didn't John Krasinski have a run as Reacher as well?
No,
Jim
you're
from The Office.
No, that's the James Patterson series that you're thinking of.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But now they have that new guy that was in the DC Legends and everything like that.
Yeah. Alan
Rickman, he's enormous.
He does a good job.
And now he looks like Reacher.
Yeah. So they probably have the same issue that with that Dresden series. They don't have anybody who matches it.
Well, and that was the problem is like because I remember when it came out, I was like, oh, cool, they're coming out with the show, and like I watched it a couple times, and I'm like, that's not Dresden, like that's not him. Like I enjoyed the show ish, but like it's not him because he's literally like out of a spaghetti western. Like his whole he wears a duster for God's sakes, like. Like the character is meant to look like he fell out of a spaghetti western, and just you have this like short, stocky dude playing him, and it was tough.
Yeah,
it was tough.
So you brought up audible books. I didn't mean to.
So I was talking about audiobooks, and I did notice one of the things that you have is you actually not only self-publish the actual written text, but you also have your audiobook files.
Yep.
And so
all of my stories are on Audible right now.
Yes, Christy, spaghetti western. It's a thing. It's a whole genre. I promise. It's the whole Clint Eastwood, like Unforgiven, Good, Bad, and the Ugly, Fistful of Dollars, and then a few dollars more, and
classic tales.
Yeah, and what I will say though, if anybody really wants,
oh my God.
Unforgiven is arguably like it's the masterpiece out of all of them. And Robert Kiyosaki remade it as a samurai movie.
Right.
Shot for shot, line for line, and it is perfection. You can watch these two movies play out side by side on screen, and it is shot for shot the same movie. Cuts at the same time, landscapes just like perfectly aligned with each other, but just one's Japan and one's like New Mexico. Like the mountainscapes were perfectly aligned. It was so good. Yeah, sorry. It just again, my interests are eclectic. I'm all over the place. But no, so how did you get it? How did you decide that you were going to actually provide the audio format? Because for me, that is my principal form of digestion for books.
Mine too, actually.
Yeah, it's so much easier. I'm going through my day. I can have my headphones in. I can be doing things and listening at the same time. So how did you kind of land on that?
So that's another funny story as far as, of course, I never expected to go that route. I was at a comic book convention. It's my second one I ever did. And one of the writers pulled me aside. He's like, why don't you have anything in audible format? I said, well, I can't afford to do that. He's like, what do you mean? I said, no, I don't have the finances. I said, I barely can afford getting this published right now. He's like, well, you can do it so it doesn't cost you anything. And so he basically walked me through the process of how to get it done, where you basically share the royalty for any sale with the person who does the narrating. And it took me a while to find a really good narrator to do my fantasy stories. And it's funny because we actually went to school together. And she's from
that's awesome.
I never knew she went that route, and she never knew I went this route. So we connected, and she's done all my fantasies for me in that series. So that 5-book series that I wrote, she's doing them all. So
that's so
she about
amazing.
killed me with the second book because I had 50 different type of character voices for her to come up with.
Yeah,
So,
and I'll be honest,
my dad was my
Christy, I'm the same way. I actually do both. I buy the physical book and get the audio file, and
really?
usually one will win. So, like, I just did the epic Brandon Sanderson Wind and Truth, which is like the culmination of his main story arcs. And I want to say it was like 1,400 pages or something like that, like some absurd. I mean, the book is 3.5, 4 inches thick.
Another Game of Thrones volume size.
Yeah, and so, but I also had the audio file, like, and so
Nice.
that's kind of a pain. Like the way Audible works is like you got to double check where you are in the chapter and then guess where your speed is against the narrator,
Right.
because you can kind of locate yourself back in the book, but that was difficult.
And you got to make sure that they follow, because like I've had narrators send me auditions, and like one girl, she sent me an audition and she must have changed about every seventh word and even included sentences of her own. I'm like, no, but thank you for your audition. But
Wild.
I said, just a little word of advice. Don't change the writer's stuff. He's not looking for you to edit his work. He's looking for you just to narrate. And she's like, I didn't change anything. I'm like, you added sentences. Don't tell me you're. I'm like, forget. I'm not going to argue with you, but
You were literally sent the script. Like that's what kills me about this is you were literally sent the script. And one of my favorite things is I love having the same narrator across series because it's just the consistency and the continuity. And you know, we have Stephen King being talked about in the background. And I will tell you, and it was a tragic series of events what led to it. But the Dark Tower series, right, is entirely narrated by one man until the final book.
Oh, no way.
Where Stephen King narrates.
Stephen King I could not get into was the Gunslinger series. I really couldn't get into it.
Stephen King is the narrator in the final book. It is painful. Like I had to just read it. I couldn't listen to it because it was so bad. Not only was it just a massive departure from the voice I've been listening to for 170 hours.
I'm sure different reading style and everything.
And Stephen King is just obnoxious to listen to for extended periods of time. His main accent is so bad. Like it's so bad. And I'm from Boston. Like I'm from New England and I can't listen to this guy's accent. His narrator actually died in a motorcycle accident.
Yeah. His book Fairy Tale, he does a character in that for the audiobook. And he does,
and that's totally fine. Having him in for like 30, 40 minutes across a book,
right?
Totally fine. I can deal with that. But Stephen King reading
I wouldn't be able to do
for
any
16
audio.
hours is just, it's so bad.
I wanted to re-listen to his Talisman, and I loved the book when I read it as a kid, so I thought, it'd be good to hear that one again. I just recently got Pet Cemetery, which was read by Michael C. Hall, the guy who does Dexter. He did a great job.
No, I love that he's starting to do audiobooks too, because he does wonderful with narration.
It's a great series. Dexter's my favorite TV show of all time. But
it was such an amazing show. I actually started it in the Trinity season. And so like I jumped in what arguably, and maybe I do have some bias, is the best season of that show.
The first is the best, but the fourth is right up there. The fourth season is the right.
I liked the first, but the whole Trinity arc, it was
that
so
season
clean.
finale that season finale, I'm not going to give anything away, but I was literally sitting with people, and one of the ladies screamed at one point, just screamed.
Yeah.
I would love to have my books impact a reader that way, but
yeah, like because
it was
it was gutting. Like you just
yeah.
The end of the Trinity arc was the most like just
it really did.
gut wrenching.
And then the fifth season, they added a character that was really well done, Lumen, who ended up being a character in that. And they're actually talking about in the new Dexter Resurrection series that's going to be coming out, they're bringing Lumen back, which would be good.
How?
She was the girl that was being raped and he saved her. Do you remember?
Yeah, but then she went rogue.
Right, but somehow they're bringing her back. She's not dead, so I mean, they're bringing her back. Is what I saw.
Because I thought they made it super clear with the fire.
I can't remember what happened with that.
He like drugged her and set her apartment on fire. Because he hit her with the paralytic and then left her in her apartment to burn.
The second season. In the second season, that was his girlfriend. So in the fifth season, he saves a girl from being raped and kills her attacker. And then
I gotta double check. I gotta double check which one that was.
Yeah, I think you're thinking the English girl that he dated in the second.
The dark-haired English girl, yeah.
Yeah, he does kill her. That's
okay.
different.
Okay.
Woman's a blonde. Yeah,
right,
you're getting it mixed up. But,
Julia Stiles. The Julia Stiles character.
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. No, I do remember that one now.
Yeah.
Yep.
When you said the fire, that's what clicked for me because, she sets her apartment on fire. He has to save the kids and break through the wall and everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was a good season too, but it wasn't.
So what did you think of the series? What did you think of the series finale, though? So many people hated it. I actually enjoyed it.
Really?
I just had a malfunction with my lights here.
I see that. What I think about the series finale, I read an article where one of the writers, he did like the first, like up to like, I think after 5, he quit the series.
Yeah.
But he was one of the writers. He said that if he were to write the finale, he wanted to do it where Dexter is on a gurney. He wakes up and he's on a gurney and it's been discovered who he is and he's being executed. And as he looks around the room, spirits start showing up like his dad does, but spirit. And these are all the people's lives that he affected, because he was a serial killer. So I thought that was pretty mind-blowing. That would have been really cool. Not like I said, I can't give away too much for people that haven't finished the series, but think about all the people's lives that he really, his sister.
To be fair, Derek, if you haven't finished Dexter yet, it's your own fault. Like, I don't think you need to give spoilers at this point for Dexter.
Yeah. But I mean, like, if you look over and you see his wife there,
Yeah.
And all these people that came to witness his execution because he screwed their lives up. Even though he was doing something noble in his own right, he was still sure.
Ignobly noble.
Yeah.
Well, and what I always think's funny is this idolization of evil characters because of a perceived code. And like American media specifically, just they miss it. Like at no point in that series are you supposed to think like, oh, Dexter's such a good dude.
Yeah.
There's no point in the series.
It's still.
Yeah, like Dexter is evil.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the very first episode, he's killing a child molester and the guy who's killed children. So you're like, okay, I can condone what he's doing. Yeah, it's an evil act, and he is evil. He even admits he's a monster, but it's a monster that his father, of all people, his father decided to mold into a weapon, you know?
Yeah.
Which I like to
And
do.
that's what it is like, but there's that lovable monster.
Yeah.
And I always find it very interesting on how that becomes a thing, especially in literature.
Right.
Where if you were, and I guess maybe Damien kind of spurred my thought process on this with his 50 Shades of Grey comment earlier. But you look at and 50 Shades of, for those of you who don't know, 50 Shades of Grey, Twilight, all 100% My Chemical Romance's fault. The band. And even further, Al Qaeda's fault. I don't know if you know the story on this, Derek. Is the lead singer of My Chemical Romance witnessed 9/11, decided to start the band. Twilight initially started as kind of a fan interpretation of some of My Chemical Romance's music. And then 50 Shades of Grey evolved out of Twilight, or vice versa. I can't remember which. I think it's 50 Shades. Yeah. 50 Shades of Grey evolved out of Twilight fan fiction. And so because of 9/11, we have two additional tragedies, which are 50 Shades of Grey and Twilight.
We have shimmering vampires. That's it.
Yeah,
that
but you have both of the male characters in those books, wildly popular among people. And they're both just straight up terrible human beings that are just likable enough to become these beloved monsters and this idolized monster. So when you're writing your villains, are you trying to humanize them in that way where it's you can kind of identify with them, or you can at least forgive some of their villainy because of their humanity?
Well, no. I mean, majority of my villains, like I said, are either demonic or they're monsters. And, I don't give them that far as, I make it pretty clear that especially if they're demonic, there's no saving them. There's no humanity to them. I don't try to mix that. For me to give it justice, the story justice, you have to have these characters are looking to do what they're intending. If they don't really, they know they're not, my characters at least know they're not doing anything. They're not heroes. They're not heroes in their eyes. They know they're being villains, and they're comfortable with that. They accept who they are. I don't think I mean, there are stories where I can see, like Dexter, where he doesn't think he's a monster. He's still the hero in his eyes, but at the same time, he does know he's doing evil things. So
well, that's cool. So I will say we are coming up at about 5 of. Okay. But I do want to address this. Damien, just so you know, Little Nicky does actually have a sequel on the docket. Adam Sandler's already confirmed this. I would love and to as far as Dogma goes, Kevin Smith just recently, within the past 6 months, managed to claw the rights out from Harvey Weinstein's personal ownership, ceded back to Miramax, and then ceded back to Kevin Smith. So Dogma in the US is actually getting a re-release in movies. It's finally getting its DVD and streaming rights released, and Kevin Smith is already talking about a sequel. So
seriously,
both of those, yeah, long. What? what is, hold on tight, my compass is curiosity. My compass is curiosity. I'm piercing through the rope that strangled you. And all right, so that's got to be just some, all right, I don't know what that is.
That went over my head too.
Mark, I don't know what that means or what that's in reference to. But Derek, thank you for coming on tonight. Greatly appreciate. Oh, looks like Mark came and went. He he dropped that in there and dipped out. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming out. Derek, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Obviously we hope Russ is doing okay. I'm going to follow up with him here after, just to make sure he's okay. But do have a couple of things I want to touch on as we go. Derek, we'll get with you here in a little bit, and thank you for coming out tonight. Any plugs, any upcoming appearances, product drops?
I'm doing the Horror Fest 2025 here in Phoenix, so get tickets. It's going to be a great time. We got a lot of celebrities coming. It's the biggest show I've ever done myself, so I'm really stoked about it. And I think it's going to be a great time. Stay tuned for my upcoming book series. Plus, I got a couple of anthologies coming out. Got one that's a story I call "Suicide is for Suckers." Basically, okay. You know who H.H. Holmes is, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Well, so my short story is: what would happen to him once he hits hell? Where does he go from there? So that's what that story's about.
Oh, that'd be terribly interesting. So, guys, check him out. We have author Derek Barton.blog. You can find all of his books, all of his appearances, and actually some how-tos and different experiences he's had in the self-publishing field, in the audiobook field, and various others, obstacles and hurdles that you might see as an individual author and an independent author. As always, keep your special edition rights, but if someone's willing to pick you up for the paperback, let them take that bullet for you, right? But Derek, thank you. I'm gonna put you down here. Got a couple things we have for the Get Haunted Network. Thank you so much for coming out, and we'll talk to you soon, guys. Thank you so much for joining another episode of Compass of Curiosity. On behalf of myself and Russ, we want to just thank you here. We also want to thank our hosts over at Get Haunted. Obviously, you can check us out every Monday night at 9 p.m. over on the Get Haunted Network, along with other shows like Paranormally Blonde, All Things Paranormal with Two Brothers on Thursdays. Definitely give some of these other shows a like and a subscribe. Definitely check us out. Also, we're going to be at the main Para HorrorCon coming up. Also, got to check out that Rock Island Expo, guys. The amount of work that Rock Island does for the paranormal community, just in general, give them a shot. Head over there if you haven't already. Grab your tickets. It's super inexpensive. Otherwise, want to say goodnight to everybody. And, Russ is definitely saying goodnight to you guys as well. And from me and everybody else here as part of our team, and Bob, stay blessed, guys. Thank you so much.
The first annual Maine Paranormal and Horror Con is coming to Maine on September 6th and 7th at the Augusta Civic Center. Come meet your favorite paranormal investigators, cryptid hunters, and horror icons. Special guests include John Zaffis, the haunted collector from Sci-Fi, Jeff and Willie from Mountain Monsters, Bob Elmore Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, CJ Graham, also known as Jason Voorhees from Jason Lives Part 6, Ronnie LeBlanc from Expedition Bigfoot, and many more to be announced. Tickets are on sale now. Go to mainparahorror.com to get your tickets and VIP packages now. For more information, check out Maine Paranormal and HorrorCon on Facebook and Instagram.